Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, and the elderly, welcome to an episode of the Pieper Sports Podcast. We have some interesting news today. We are joined by special guest Ronan O'Shea. Say hello.
Hello.
Plug yourself.
Yes, hello. Coming up on the Midsummer Classic, so looking forward to that here in baseball.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. We have a lot of cool baseball things coming up. If you can't see, I am a big baseball fan. Baseball tattoo, All Star jersey from 2012 with my name on the back of it. I think it's kind of cool. There's a lot of cool baseball stuff about to occur. London Series, All-Star Game is next week. But most importantly, today was announced the position players All-Star starters. And we'll go into a little bit more depth, but initial thoughts.
Well, I just love this time of the year. And here's an interesting thing about the All-Star Game that a lot of people make a big deal of this. We were talking about it a little bit off air. You know, you hear something like, oh, this guy was an 8-time All-Star or 9-time All-Star. Well, that means that player was very popular. This is a popularity contest. Fans vote on the players that they like. It gets narrowed down to 3 players, and then there's the announcement of who's going to be the starter. So it's a fun campaign. I mean, every baseball fan, whether you're a Rockies fan, you're a Cubs fan, a Royals fan, whatever team you identify with, you always think your guy is the guy. That's the guy who should be the starting for first baseman or third baseman. But it's fun, and I love the Major League All-Star Game because, you know, you look at the Pro Bowl. They don't tackle, and for the right reasons. You don't want guys getting hurt in the Pro Bowl, but it isn't really football. NBA, they don't play defense. They don't play a lot of defense in the NBA anymore anyway, but like the All-Star Game is 150 to 140. At least the Major League All-Star Game still looks like baseball. And you still have that one-on-one battle between a pitcher who's going for it and a batter that's going for it. And if you can appreciate the game of baseball, what's not to love about the very best talent in the world coming together on a Tuesday night in July, this year in Cleveland, in a beautiful ballpark, and just playing old-fashioned baseball. We've all been on T-ball teams. We've maybe had the experience or pleasure of playing for an all-star team before. It's cool to have all the teams represented, and at least now it's back to an exhibition game. It doesn't have any bearing on the World Series, and we can just enjoy it for what it is, and I really enjoy it. I do think it is the best all-star game of all of the pro sports here in America.
You know, it's kind of a hot take to think of something like that because it is important to think about it as something completely different than a lot of other sports all-star games come out to be. You know, one thing I really, really like about the being voted for by the fans is the fact that they're trying to push this let the kids play campaign. And I want to tie this in a tiny bit because I think it's kind of cool to look into, but let the kids play. Let them have fun, let them bat flip, let them be a little bit adventurous and show their own personalities out there. And, you know, part of the All-Star Game is that fan element, that fan voting. And I think if you vote for your favorite player, Christian Yelich, you vote for somebody like Mike Trout, or you vote for somebody like Bryce Harper, I mean, they can be your favorite players and they can be good, but then you can pull people like Michael Brantley.
Yeah.
And you can pull people that might not necessarily be the best player in their certain position, but they make the biggest impact to you as a fan. And I think that's pretty important, if you ask me.
There's so much talent in Major League Baseball, and you bring up a good point, kind of a youth movement in the sport right now. Some of the best talent in Major League Baseball is in their early to mid-20s. So to put them out there on that stage for the All-Star Game, the Midsummer Classic, it's just such a fun tradition and celebration, and I really do enjoy it. The Home Run Derby is a good time, the Futures Game, all the festivities that go into it. Baseball is such a long season, and every team goes through highs and lows, and it's so easy to get down on your team when they're in a funk for 1 or 2 weeks. Even the best teams in baseball go through bad funks, but for one night in the summer, you can just look at all the stars, and they're having fun. You see a lot of smiles. You see a lot of personality come out. It's something that is Major League Baseball needs to work on. There's unbelievable personalities in the sport. It's just a lot of it gets suppressed by the history of the game and the unwritten rules and different things like that. It's a night, though, where a lot of that gets thrown away. And you can see Mike Trout for who he is. You can see Javier Baez is always playing at 100%. But you can see some of these guys just kind of let loose. You know, the Home Run Derby, for example, their kids are sometimes with them on the side of the field. Just to see that side of them, if you aren't locked into them on social media, it's fun one day a year, and to see a little bit of that personality and then know that, all right, Second half of the season starts on Thursday or Friday, and here we go. Now it's this mad rush to the playoffs. So it's good to take a breather, I think. Most baseball teams, you get one day off at a time during the season. Here, at least you have a couple of days where you can let your team break for a little bit and just enjoy the stars in the game.
Yeah, and I think part of the, part that baseball teams and organizations really do enjoy is the fact that, hey, take this entire week, get healthy again. Yeah. It helps teams like the Yankees that are, still rehabbing players. Giancarlo with the PCL sprain, and it just gets them back into the groove, gets them back into playing healthy baseball, going into these later months and going into that second half of the season. Regardless, we'll get started talking about kind of overviewing each position with the AL and the NL, and we'll go down the list and look at who and what is where. So we'll start with the catchers because it was the first thing that I copy and pasted from the website. So this can be found on the MLB website. It's literally listed. These are your MLB All Stars. All-Star starters. And for the catchers, for the AL, Gary Sanchez of the Yankees, it is his first All-Star game.
Good choice, too. He has had a phenomenal start to the season. I mean, how often do you have a catcher at the All-Star break? And we're not quite there yet. Still over a week to go until the actual break with more than 20 home runs. You just don't see a whole lot of that. And we are in an era of a lot of home runs being hit out of the ballpark. But, he gets on base at a high clip. There have been some other quality catchers in the American League. There's a ton of talent at the backstop in the National League, but Gary Sanchez, in my opinion, was the right call for the AL. They got it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he is on that Bronx Bombers. He is on the Yankees. And I think the important part for him is the fact that he's healthy. On a team full of injuries, on a team full of the AAA roster and old veterans being brought in to suffice, I think he's been that kind of mainstay on the team along with some other players like Luke Voigt, bringing in Cameron Maybin that have made huge impacts on the real longevity of that team, allowing them to be so successful and where they're at. The number 2 catcher or the other runner-ups were James McCann of the White Sox and Robinson Chinos of the Astros. The NL, you are a Cubs fan.
You're going to hear a little bit of this today.
Wilson Contreras of the Cubs. And I'll say this, it's his second All-Star appearance. He has proved to himself and the city of Chicago that he is here to stay.
Yeah.
I remember looking at back when he started his first game, the entire city of Chicago loved this kid because he had so much potential, and he still does. He's still young, and the fact that he is making a second All-Star appearance shows that he is up there for this team.
Yeah, and you mentioned his first career game. In fact, his first major league at bat was a home run at Wrigley Field. That's a pretty fun way to start your career. But this is a guy that took a step back last year after in spring training announcing, I am the best catcher in the National League. And he didn't mean it to disrespect someone like Buster Posey, Yadier Molina, anybody like that. It's just the confidence. Yeah, look, I'm one of the best in the game. 2.5 WAR player, almost 20 home runs on the year, gets on base at a 40% clip. He's also really, really good at throwing base runners out. That includes picking off guys at like first and third base, in addition to throwing out attempted base stealers at second base. He is electric, a ton of fun to watch every single day in Chicago, and I think that he'll represent the league well. You could have absolutely made a case for Grandal in Milwaukee. Slightly higher WAR up to this point. JT Realmuto in Philadelphia having another solid season. But with really any of those three, you would have been just fine. And Wilson is the type of guy that more people in baseball need to see him play. If you see this guy play every day, you're going to fall in love with him. And it's great to see him get that nod as one of 2 Cubs starters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty cool. Moving on to first base, the American League, we have Carlos Santana. And some people might be like, who? But Carlos Santana really has, and obviously he's a Cleveland Indian, so this All-Star game in Cleveland, it makes it really, really cool. That hometown, home team type of support he's getting. But it's his first time in his 10-year career that he has made it this far and got an All-Star appearance. Currently this year, he's hitting 951 OPS, which is really, really good. Anything really above 900 is that kind of upper echelons. 18 home runs lead his team, which is the other important part. But the most important, because it is a fan-voted thing, he's receiving 93% of the vote from the Cleveland market.
Yeah.
And it's a big market, and if you're voting for him, he's in.
You want to see an Indian start in this game in their home ballpark, but and I'm not saying that to diminish what he's done. He's also earned it. He is the right call at first base. What I really like about him is just the walk rate. 16% of the time that he steps in, he walks. He only strikes out 15% of the time. So he's got a patient eye, a .411 on base percentage. You mentioned the pop earlier. Certainly a great choice for it. And you want to have a hometown guy starting in the All-Star game. It'll be a very cool moment for him in Cleveland, in one of the nice ballparks in the American League.
You know, hopefully, and if anybody has connections out there, give me a ticket to the game because I really want to go.
Well, we were looking earlier, and it's not cheap.
Oh, no. It's in the realm of a couple $100s. Believe it or not, I don't have a couple $100. The NL starting first baseman, Freddie Freeman. And I love the pick of Freddie Freeman, not only on the side of he's a good fan guy, but he's also a good player. And he's showing it this year. He's performing really well. He's hitting home runs. He's batting .312 right now, 22 home runs with a .994 OPS, just about to eclipse that 1,000 mark. And he deserves it more than a lot of first basemen there, even though there are a lot of talented ones in the NL.
That's the key point. I think you could take about a half dozen names, put them on a dartboard, throw a dart, you land on any of them, you would have been fine. Peter Alonso in New York certainly could have been justified as the starter. Obviously Max Muncy in LA, Josh Bell in Pittsburgh, Anthony Rizzo with the Cubs. Any of them would have been perfectly fine to start. So no real complaints with Freddie Freeman. He's had a wonderful career. Again, a ton of power, patience. It works as an all-star. But boy, I wanted to see Rizzo get the nod at that. But looking at the names and how it ended up, I mean, you can't really look at that and say, oh, that's completely unjustified. There's, in fact, just one player starting. We'll get to that in a little bit, that I think there was an egregious mistake in who was starting in the All-Star game, but it's not first base.
No, I mean, I feel like this is pretty well set. You know, in the AL, the runner-ups were Luke Voit, C.J. Cron of the Minnesota Twins, and New York Yankees for Voit, respectively. You know, both those guys aren't really on that upper echelons as Carlos Santana has been this season. But you're right. Josh Bell, Anthony Rizzo were the runner-ups. You could easily have seen the vote kind of swing either way. Both big markets, or all three big markets. And I guess it really kind of just came down to tearing it up, Freddie Freeman. Second base, this one's kind of interesting. Two guys that you kind of wouldn't anticipate being the best or second best or top 10 for that matter. In the AL, DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah.
And, he signed a 2-year deal with the Yankees last offseason, or this last offseason.
Yeah. Weird
to phrase that. But, and he showed up. I mean, he's hitting .336 average right now, which is simply incredible. But, we live in Colorado, we live in Denver. It's kind of tough to see a team of such, or a player of such talent go to a team of such hate. And
yeah.
it's interesting.
Well, the big question when LeMahieu left Coors Field was, is he going to be able to hit in a ballpark that isn't an amusement park? And New Yankee Stadium has a reputation of being a hitter-friendly ballpark, particularly for, left-handed bats. DJ LeMahieu, though, I mean, he's got one full win over the second highest second baseman in the American League. That's Brandon Lowe in Tampa, and then Tommy La Stella, the former Cub, down in Anaheim. LeMahieu's the guy, and I was surprised. He's again vying for a batting title. He won one here in Colorado a couple of years ago, but he's put together a nice season. He's got some pop. Again, he gets on base, and at 3.2 WAR on the season, the next highest in the American League at just over 2, it's hard not to say, hey, DJ's been the best second baseman up to this point.
Yeah, and I think it's making the biggest impact on a team. Obviously, we talked about Gary Sanchez being one of those healthy guys, but DJ LeMahieu, without the voice crack, DJ LeMahieu being one of the biggest healthy impacts on that talented and really strong Yankees team, pushing for that, that number one spot as opposed to like pushing for a wild card or worse.
And I think it's surprising to not see Jose Altuve in the mix. He's not having a great year. It's been a step back for him, but that's a name that maybe coming in the year, like, well, that's probably going to be the lock at second base, especially with Houston being a big market, a very good team, liable to win the pennant this year. But Altuve took a step back. LeMahieu has taken advantage of it, and he was the right call.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very, very true to think that Altuve would have been the guy. I think one of the biggest impacts to LeMahieu's winning this, which is very, very interesting, the Rockies fans still love LeMahieu. This is a quote from the article. He got a 66% vote of the AL second baseman from the Colorado market. Colorado still loves LeMahieu.
You know, I go to a lot of Rockies games. I was out there last night for the Dodgers Rockies game. Still, the volume of LeMahieu jerseys and jerseys that you see at the ballpark is not insignificant. You still see a lot of cargo. Obviously, Nolan and Charlie and guys like that dominate what fans are wearing. But LeMahieu is very much liked in this city, very much respected. Not surprised to hear that.
And he's a guy that you go out there and you're like, he's a guy you could enjoy to watch. He's not he's not stuck up. He's not a jerk. He's a guy that you like. And personally, I like him as a player. I like him as a person. And now another second All-Star appearance for him.
The Cub fan in me doesn't care for him too much. Not that it was awful. I mean, things worked out just fine with him leaving town and all that. That trade in particular wasn't great for the Cubs. And he's a guy that I admittedly have said, he's really not that good. He just takes advantage of playing at Coors Field. Well, he's translated over to the American League pretty well, again, in another hitter-friendly ballpark, but you can't argue with the production that he has put together, and kudos to him.
Yeah, but I clicked the wrong button. Went to a wrong scene there.
Okay.
No, I like it. And, for the NL, it's no different seeing somebody that you would definitely not pick as your guy going into this, season. Obviously, Ozzy Albies would be one of those guys you're like, definitely going to be penned in for at least top 3, which he was. He was one of the runner-ups. But the NL second baseman is Ketel Marte of the Diamondbacks, making his first All-Star game appearance. And as it says here, Marte had never before been an All-Star, but he'd also never hit 20 home runs like he has this year, including a 482-foot blast on May 28th that set the D-backs StatCast record. So I think, the impact that he's making on a team or on the Diamondbacks is part of it, but the fact that he is hitting a lot better this year for power as opposed to his previous seasons, I think it's just this part of his development that he kind of got this miracle run. And hopefully he sustains that success as, a good second baseman with his power and his hitting. But looking to the future, it's a good look for Ketel Marte.
Totally. And I think something that I'm not sure the average baseball fan who voted for the All-Star game pays a whole lot of attention to defense, but he is the premier defensive second baseman in the National League. So when you're a 20 home run hitter at second base, a position that historically isn't a big power position, you play very good defense, you're the guy. And it's a relatively quiet second base right now in the National League. Really, the only competition that I think that he was going to be met with for second base was going to be if Javier Baez was a second baseman. But because he's primarily been at short with Russell's off-field issues, that opened up second base, and Marte has absolutely seized it.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. Hopefully sustains that success in the future. It'll be cool seeing him there with a plethora of talent.
Yeah.
Third base, we'll kind of bust through these a little bit quicker because I know you got to get out of here pretty soon. But third base, the AL, Alex Bregman of the Astros. I went to an Astros game a while back, a couple weeks ago. About a month ago, I went to an Astros game, drove down, and I bought an Alex Bregman jersey. He's young. He got extended recently. He is that Astros third baseman of the future, present, and everything that you can currently see. And he's really hitting just about everything right now. He's hitting bombs. I mean, it's exciting to watch. The game I went to, he hit a home run. He's hitting a lot of home runs. But the fact that players like George Springer, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve haven't always been on the field, Alex Bregman's really that cornerstone, which is important in that hot corner, that he can make such a big impact and stay healthy.
He's been awesome. He's definitely the right guy. You mentioned the 20 home run power. He walks more than he strikes out, gets on base at about a 40% clip, and he leads American League third baseman in WAR. What I was surprised to see when I was looking at it is how close Matt Chapman of Oakland was. A real good player. I hope he gets an opportunity to represent Oakland in the All-Star game. But the fans got this one right. Bregman was the correct way to go. And boy, the Astros have such a fun team, high-powered, high-velocity offense. He's right in the middle of why they are so good offensively.
Irrefutably, it's a great look for him. The runner-ups, Matt Chapman was not a runner-up, but it was Hunter Dozier of Kansas City and Gio Urshela of the Yankees, which is interesting because Gio Urshela was, obviously traded there, and people were like, nah, he's going to be a backup, but he's kind of stolen that spot right there and done really well. The NL, Nolan Arenado, Colorado, loves Nolan Arenado. He's the best player on the team, and he's doing really well. Obviously, one of the best defensive third basemen in the league, but also hitting for power and going out there hitting bombs and doing everything he needs to do to help win this, or help make this team, put this team in position to win games, although they may blow the leads.
Look, we're very lucky in this city that we get to see Nolan play every day. It's a real pleasure. Elite offensive player, elite defensive player, and just a fun guy to watch. He cares about baseball. You get that passion, the energy from him when you see him out there. So I don't really have an issue with Nolan starting in the game. I think he's as good as any third baseman in the National League. The real thing that I thought was a missed opportunity from baseball fans, though, was not having Anthony Rendon in the final three, because he's been as good as any third baseman in the NL this year in fewer games. Injury knocked him out for a little bit. So in the fewest number of games, he's still tied for the lead in WAR in the National League at third base with Nolan Arenado. 17 home runs for him, 400 on base percentage, hold his own defensively at third too. So while Nolan was the right call, and certainly you can look at a guy like Chris Bryant, Anthony Rendon, I think, should have at least been in the top three. I think Josh Donaldson was the one who didn't belong in that group, and Rendon should have been. Rendon in Washington has quietly had a really, really good career. It just seems to be kind of lost in the mix. There's no shortage of good third basemen in the NL, and he's kind of maybe not as popular as other guys.
I think the part about Anthony Rendon that isn't popular is the goatee.
It's not a great look, actually, no. But, boy, he's a fun player to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great time to be a baseball fan, and especially a fan of great third basemen doing it all. Just an interesting little thing here about Nolan Arenado. 4 straight Silver Sluggers, 6 straight Golden Gloves at third base. He is, in the NL, there is a lot of talent. There's a lot of third base talent specifically, along with first base talent. But Arenado's been the elite tier.
And, Nolan is the heart and soul of this Rockies team that historically the Rockies have been very, very mediocre in their 26 years in the National League. They've made the playoffs 2 straight years. If Nolan's not around, that does not happen. So, this guy it's just like I said at the top here, watching him play every day is a lot of fun. And, just the passion, the energy, the fire when he goes in there. If you don't enjoy watching a guy like Nolan play baseball, you're watching the wrong sport. And I don't care what team you like. I don't care where your loyalty lies. That's the kind of guy that you just watch him play. You can appreciate that high-quality, high-intensity type of baseball.
Yeah. I can't say anything better than that. Going to the shortstops, obviously one's a Cub, but you have an issue, or I wouldn't say issue, but you have a kind of shocking statement to say about the AL. The AL shortstop is Jorge Polanco of the Twins. His first All-Star appearance, batting .321 right now, close to setting a new career high in home runs. Currently sitting at 11, and he's set to become the first Twins player to start an All-Star game since franchise icon Joe Mauer in 2013.
Well, good for him and good for the Twins. They're having a remarkable season. It certainly looks like they're going to win the American League Central. But I think Bogaerts in Boston has been better. More home runs. The only thing that's lower is his batting average, but the on-base and slugging is both higher. He's also much better defensively as well. So to me, that was the one outlier going, I think that was the thing that got wrong. Absolutely no complaints, though, about the National League.
I can't argue the National League. Javier Baez is one of the best two-way players in the game right now. He's arguably one of the best 5-tool players in the league, or up there with 4.5 of them. But he performs on every side of the ball. He can run, he can hit for power, contact, play defensively, and obviously he's a smart guy. you can't deny the fact that the NL shortstop in Javi is well deserved.
Yeah, I mean he is maybe the most fun player I have seen every single day, and I've seen some great guys even in Chicago over the years. Some great players there. Finished runner-up last year for MVP. The thing about Javier Baez is if he's not on your team, I can see maybe why some people, he rubs people the wrong way, maybe. But if you actually watch him play every day, he loves baseball. And he's so good at it. You know, high power guy. He's really, really worked on at least becoming better in terms of being a disciplined player. And I don't think that there's a better defensive player in baseball than Javier Baez. And you see it, the tags, the diving plays, the throws, and doing it all with a big smile on his face. It's just, he is really the heart and soul of the Cubs these days. And he's maybe taken that from a guy like Anthony Rizzo or a guy like Chris Bryant, previous MVP winner in the National League. Javier Baez is the heartbeat of the Cubs, who are trying to win another pennant this year. I will say this, though, about National League shortstop. You've got a real good shortstop in St. Louis and Paul DeJong. Obviously, we're fortunate here in Colorado to see Trevor Story every day. Also a player who would have been deserving of it, but you can't go wrong with Javier Baez. And I'm glad he's going to have this spotlight because, again, if more people in baseball see him, you're going to fall in love with the type of play that he does. And he's like the very best about baseball. He cares about it. He, eat, breathes, and sleeps baseball. And when you see him out there playing, it's fun to watch Javier Baez play baseball.
It is. And, the fact that he is such a character that can go out there, I think that's kind of what, Javier Baez is really that definition of what an all-star is in the MLB. Mm-hmm. He is he's an all-star of the heart, and I think that's important. We'll kind of go through very speedily the outfielders for either side or either league. The American League, Mike Trout, George Springer, Michael Brantley. Now, obviously, Mike Trout was going to make it because he's not changing at all. He's still he is the best player in all of baseball. He's essentially five-tool with the exception of a cannon of an arm, which he doesn't have. But what really surprises me, George Springer and Michael Brantley, two Astros, end up winning it. And I think it shows how much the Texas fan base loves baseball. And, you see it in their AA stadiums. You see it in their AAA stadiums. You see it in their major league stadiums. Baseball's huge. They're going to vote for their own guys. And you can see it with Springer and Michael Brantley, that they're having good years. Second All-Star appearance for George Springer, first for Michael Brantley. Texas loves their guys.
Not a whole lot to complain about there either. It's a good group. Mike Trout obviously being the best player in Major League Baseball. He's on pace for a 10-WAR season. We're watching a legend every single day in Anaheim. I hope baseball fans are appreciating what they get out of Mike Trout. The only thing that you could maybe say about outfielders in the American League, Joey Gallo probably deserved a look. Big power guy, having a wonderful season in Arlington with the Texas Rangers. And then Byron Buxton in Minnesota. Again, we know that they're having a great season. This is a guy who was a prime top prospect, really struggled early in the league. He's now emerged as an all-star. He should at least represent the Twins also, even if he's not starting, as he's certainly worthy as an all-star outfielder in the American League. So that's the only thing that you could maybe say when looking at it. I don't really have an issue with any of the three that are starters, but feels like maybe a missed opportunity that Joey Gallo or a guy like Buxton didn't get a chance. But they'll probably make the team anyway.
You know what I find kind of interesting? Aaron Judge was one of the runners-up. Many people don't know.
Voting, right?
Aaron Judge hasn't played in a significant period of time, but that's part of the reason. You could vote for Derek Jeter on the list. Well, not really, but in a complete exaggeration of an analogy, you could vote for Derek Jeter, and he'd probably get significant amount of votes and could start. National League, we'll bust through these ones. Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger, Ronald Acuna. Ronald Acuna is still a young player, still an outstanding player, and he's performing at a level and still increasing his performance every single day, every single game. And I think that's a really, really good thing for the Braves because it's his first All-Star appearance, but this is a superstar in the making. Cody Bellinger, obviously home run record holder for a rookie.
Yeah.
He's not having a season as great, I would say, as he has in the past. or as his rookie year was, but he's been converted to right field. They're playing him there as opposed to first base, which is kind of his past position. But his versatility has kind of helped this team shift what they want to do and be one of the best teams in baseball. And Christian Yelich is just a beast in Milwaukee, and he's hitting home runs by the boatload.
There's a very good chance that two of those three guys, when we get to the All-Star game in mid-July, will have more than 30 home runs on the season at the midway point. Well, just past the midway point, technically in terms of games played, but at the honorary midway point of the season. So I can't go wrong at all. What Yelich has done, I mean, he was Babe Ruth for the final month and a half last year en route to leading the Brewers to winning the National League Central and winning his first MVP award. He's certainly going to be in contention for another MVP award this year if he can stay healthy. And then Acuna in Atlanta, you're absolutely right in saying this is an up-and-coming superstar that we're seeing develop before our eyes. So, like I said, there was really only one position that I looked at when I saw the starters, and this doesn't include pitching. That comes a little bit later. We don't get into the reserves yet. That's going to come a little bit later. There's just one thing that, to me, I thought, that seemed like a missed opportunity. Everything else, though, looks right, and we're seeing a nice diversity of talent, diversity of teams being represented, and that's what you want ideally in an MLB All Star game. You want teams to be represented, you want different markets to be represented, and I'm certainly looking forward to this one in Cleveland.
Of course, and we did miss one player. You can't forget about the designated hitters.
Yes, that's right. AL Park.
Yep, the AL designated hitter, because if you don't know, the NL does not have a designated hitter spot. Their pitchers hit as opposed to their designated hitter spot. But the AL's guy, Hunter Pence of the Rangers, I saw him play at a Rangers game. Y'all are going to always hear me talk about the games I go to because, I mean, it's important going to a game and experiencing their fan base. And Texas loves their guys. But Hunter Pence, it's his first All-Star game appearance. A right groin injury sent him to the injured list on June 17th, though he could be ready to return soon. Hopefully, he'll be able to perform in the game. He'll be able to put there. But his OPS right now is .962, 15 home runs, which is his most since 2014. It's a good look. The runner-ups, JD Martinez and Nelson Cruz, both, complete rock stars in their own right. But I'm glad Hunter Pence got his first look here.
He's been a fun player, going back to his days in Houston and then obviously the championship seasons in San Francisco. And a guy that you kind of, I wrote off before the season started, like, he's probably done, end of his career. He's had a revitalized season here late in his career. The only thing, I guess, for me is there's just other guys I'd rather see start at DH. A guy like Vogelbach in Seattle, who's a young, just slugging first baseman / DH type player. But I really don't have any issues with Hunter Pence being represented. Part of the All-Star game, too, is it's honorary. And if you think about the All-Star game, it's really just rewarding the first half of a season that somebody has. You can do better in the second half than the All-Star starter, have a better year than them, but you're not the All-Star that year. So that's a little bit arbitrary maybe about the Major League All-Star game, is that it does reward the first half of the year. Or in a case like this, I think that there were fans that voted for Hunter Pence because they've seen him over the last decade plus in Major League Baseball, and it was kind of a tip of the cap to somebody before he hangs it up.
Of course, and Hunter Pence, 36 years old, I believe. It's a good time for him to get it because he is on that backswing of his career, and the fact that he gets something like that it's a feel-good moment, and I'm proud that he got that this year. But speaking of coming on the back turn of something, this kind of concludes our look at the position players and the position starters for the All-Star game. You can catch the All-Star game on July 9th at 5:30 p.m., and it will be on TV on Fox. This is in Cleveland. If you guys are in Cleveland, go check out the game or go sit outside, watch it. It'll be interesting because it is always kind of fun. It's a fan event, and you'll meet a lot of cool people at a game like this.
And I think something pretty historic happened in Cleveland about 3 years ago in early November on a Game 7 extra inning World Series win for the Cubs. So I've got a very soft spot in my heart for Cleveland. And, when they built that ballpark in the mid-'90s, at the time Jacobs Field, I think it's Progressive Field now, it was a game changer in a lot of respects. And they had a long multi-season streak of selling the ballpark out that it helped, along with the ballpark in Baltimore, along with Coors Field, it helped kind of usher in this retro era of ballparks that we've seen blossom over the last 15, 20 years, too, as basically every city except Chicago, L.A., New York, and Boston, New York actually has a new park, have gone and built new ballparks. That one in Cleveland is a big part of why that happened, the success of that ballpark when they opened it. So it's a historic place. Baseball in Cleveland goes back over 100 years. So anytime you can get back to one of those old school cities in a great ballpark with a fan base that has seen a lot of losing over the years, it could be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be a entertaining night in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, let's hope that everybody there stays dedicated. Let's hope all the fans stay humble and stay loving their sport. To stay dedicated to my channel, shameless plug, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification afterwards, and I cannot wait to get you guys some footage, some games, hopefully, but some cool stuff on mymetmedia.com next week. Hopefully I get the opportunity to go to an All-Star game. Hopefully, if not, you'll see some footage from the studio, and we'll get some stuff up for you there. Any final words from the Mr. O'Shea?
Well, have a happy 4th of July. I'll probably see you next week before the holiday break, and enjoy some time off. You've been doing an awesome job. You've had a really productive summer. Get out to some baseball. It's never been a problem for you hitting the road and going to a new ballpark. But take some time off next week, kick it a little bit, and then we'll fire it back up, and a lot more baseball to talk over the next couple of months.
For sure. Ladies, gentlemen, children, boys, girls, elderly, thank you. I'll see you next week.